Hello students, welcome to this session on qualitative research designs. They are very effective in identifying intangible factors, for example, gender roles, social norms, socioeconomic status, religion, etc. The roots of qualitative research design lies in social and cultural anthropology, philosophy, psychology, history, and sociology. It is more complex as compared to the quantitative research because it deals with human minds and actions. A phenomenological study on lived experiences of 9 by 11 attacks on World Trade Center at Twin Towers in New York. A historical study on the development of 9 by 11 Memorial Museum, which is built there. Learning objectives. By the end of the lecture, the students will be able to get a basic understanding of qualitative research design, familiarize with the types of qualitative research designs, and recognize their sources of data collection and data analysis techniques. Qualitative research studies, they predominantly emphasize only the words. It's a strategy for going beneath the surface, a holistic overview of emotions, motivations through a personal confrontation. Qualitative research designs are systematic, they are more interactive and subjective in approach, and they provide greater richness and more detailed information about human experiences, for example, pain, caring, comfort, powerlessness, etc. They use inductive reasoning. They begin with assumptions and specific observations, and then they lead to the development of themes and concepts. And they also answer what, why, and how of a particular issue. Now, definition. So, how do you define qualitative research? Qualitative research is a loosely defined category of research designs or models which elicit verbal data, visual data, tactile data, olfactory data, and gustatory data in the form of descriptive narratives. For example, field notes, recordings, or other transcriptions from audio tapes, videotapes, and other written records and pictures or films. History. Now, coming to the history, how did qualitative research started? It has a long tradition in psychology and social sciences. For example, the Polish peasant in Europe and America, the Chicago School of Sociology. Ernst Dichter was an American psychologist and a marketing expert, and he is known as the father of motivational research. And he's also written a book on Get Motivated. Social scientists, psychologists, and cultural anthropologists. They were working for advertising agencies. Anthropologists and sociologists, they laid the foundation for modern qualitative methods when they were doing field research in the early decades of the 20th century. Comparative between the sampling of the quantitative and qualitative. For quantitative, it is a random sampling and select representative individuals and then generalize from the sample to the population. So to make claims about the population and to build or test theories. But in qualitative sampling, it is purposeful sampling, selecting people or selecting sites who can be the best help to understand a particular phenomena. And they help in detailed understanding of the phenomena that provides useful information, learning about the phenomena. And also it gives a voice to the people who are silenced. Characteristics of qualitative research emerge as the study advances, flexible and elastic, triangulation, intense researchers' involvement, holistic, ongoing data analysis. Now, coming to the number one, that is emerging as the study advances. So, that means the design emerges as the study advances with the emerging of the study. It can be adjusted to the information being collected. So it is a flexible design and it is more elastic, can be adjusted according to the need. Triangulation. So triangulation means using multiple strategies of data collection. It has intense researchers involvement. That means the researcher has to be committed for a longer period in the field, and also researcher has to use himself as an instrument. Holistic. So qualitative research tends to be holistic in nature. They strive for an understanding as a of the whole. Ongoing data analysis. So qualitative research designs, data analysis and data collection both go simultaneously. Now coming to the broad phases. So what are the phases of qualitative research design? Though the all 5 phases continue, but then they are more focused, like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1 will have orientation to the research and overview phase, which should have salient features of the design, and also it helps in planning the research process. Phase 2, it is a focused exploration, so finding out about the factors and also the issues, an in-depth study of the associated aspects, and also people's participation. Phase 3, confirmation and closure. That means the findings have to be trustworthy, and before finalizing them, they have to be discussed with the participants. Qualitative data collection. So it is an interactive interviewing. Interview method is used, but it is an interactive interview. It is a direct interaction with the participant, which includes conversation, gestures, facial expressions to get an in-depth information about a particular topic or an event. It is more flexible and there is an opportunity for additional information. Participants' own words can be recorded. It can also be used for highly sensitive issues. Different types of questions can be asked. For example, knowledge-based questions, opinion questions, application questions, analysis questions, synthesis questions, and it is more adaptable as compared to the other styles. So interview method as a qualitative data collection method. Types of interviews. Semi-structured, I have not included structured because it is not being used in qualitative studies. So semi-structured interviews, unstructured, focused group interviews or focused group discussions, FGDs, in-depth interviews, and telephonic interviews. Semi-structured interview, and it is widely used in qualitative studies. It has a flexible interview schedule. There are predetermined topics and open-ended questions. It can be posed to all the participants in a different manner, depending on the type of the participant and also the need of the topic. Semi-structured interviews are recorded using tape recorder and they are transcribed for analysis later. They allow subjects freedom to express their views. And development of RAPO is mandatory in this interview. If tape recorder is not available, a note taker can take down the notes. It provides reliable and qualitative data. So this was semi-structured interview. Unstructured interview. Unstructured interview, they are non-standardized interviews. Also, it is more like a conversation. They are informal in nature. There's a list of topics defined rather than predefined questions. So questions can be unstructured, but topics are defined before. It explores in-depth information from the participants and they are least directive. They change according to the intelligence level, understanding, and also beliefs. But they consume more time because they are unstructured and they are a bit difficult to manage. They are more commonly used in qualitative research and they are suitable for information on sensitive topics like divorce, drug addiction, marital issues, etc. Focused group interviews or focused group discussions. So it is an in-depth qualitative interview with a small group of people, can be between 6 to 10 or 6 to 12 people. They are selected to represent a target audience. and it is a heterogeneous group, and the duration can be 1 to 2 hours. A group discussion is held to generate collective views from the participants. The researcher acts as a facilitator. He guides the interview process, monitors and records the discussion, and a rich understanding of experiences is generated. So the record, it can be recorded either manually or taped. The group interaction is a very powerful dynamic, and there's a mixture of interview and also observation. And this allows free expression of the views. The facial expressions and body language also can be monitored and noted down. So this was focused group interview, a focused group discussion with a group of between 6 to 10 or 12 people. In-depth interview. In-depth interview, it is a kind of investigative interview which gathers in-depth information from the participants. It is more open and verbal responses are encouraged with a limited set of questions, and they can also observe opinions and emotions. The respondents' perceptions, they are captured in their own words. So it is an important feature in qualitative data collection process. In-depth interviews. There is a comprehensive coverage with a small group of individuals, encourages free expression of participants. Interviewer needs to be trained, experienced, and needs to have good interpersonal skills. Observation. So observation, there is a direct observation of behaviors and also interactions. Systematic selection, the what you have to observe, observation, and then recording of physical characteristics, individuals' behavior, events, and settings which are relevant to a problem under study. So it is a deliberate process of concentration. You need to concentrate and then pay attention to what is going on. Data is observed through senses and also through mechanical devices. An observation method is used in psychology, sociology, medicine, and nursing to evaluate the effectiveness of a particular program or a treatment. And the steps are that determine the area of focus, that what you need to focus, what you need to observe, design a system of data collection, that who is going to observe, select the trainers and then train them, and then train the observers and then implement the observation. So this was about observation uses. So when what are the uses of observation? So observation allows to watch behaviors and interactions directly. It is a very good method of data collection when subjects, they are unwilling. Either they are unwilling or they are unable to provide data through interview method. Observation provides an in-depth a variety of information, understand an ongoing process or a situation, and it is open to recording devices. And also the non-verbal gestures also can be noted down. So triangulation, there are four main kinds of triangulation. Multiple theories can be used, multiple methods, multiple data, multiple researchers can be used. So this is mixing up of multiple things can be done. This was about observation. Planning. So how do you plan to carry out an observation process? Planning of an observation. Aspects you need to take care. What should be observed? Who is going to observe? When should it be done? Where should it be done? And how will it be done? So what would the researcher like to observe? Whether it is an activity or it is a procedure or a behavior or some skills where you need to use a checklist. Physical characteristics, verbal communication, non-verbal communication, or there is some environmental issue which you have to observe. Could be temperature, could be noise level. Okay, so who's going to observe? Identify the target group or the participants, individual or it is a group, adults, is it an the target is adults, elderly people, children, or any other. When? So when should the observation be done? Time of the day and which day, duration of observation, and depends on the process, behavior, or interaction. So where should it be done? The location or the setting to be selected beforehand. The participants will be observed, whether it is a school setting, college, clinical setting, community setting, or it is a site of accident. How? So how to observe? The researcher to decide about the method of observation, whether it is going to be direct observation or indirect observation, and tools used for observation, whether it is a checklist, a recording, or a rating. It should be planned beforehand. Types of observation. So there are basically four types of observation: participant observation, one; non-participant observation; structured observation; and unstructured observation. Participant. So to start with number one, that is participant observation. Participant observation, the observer plays the role of an observer and a participant, both, and it is known as overt observation. He lives and works in the field and participates in all the activities, and it needs more time. And there are three types of participant observation: one, observer as participant; two, participant as observer, that is non concealed observation; and then complete participant or concealed observation. Unstructured tools are used to collect the data from the participants. For example, field notes, which are written then and there, logbooks, tape recording, video recording, field diary, etc. So this was about participant observation. Non-participant. Non-participant, that means the observer stands aside or stands apart, does not participate in the event, called as covert observation. Secretly listens or observes without interaction. Subjects are not aware that they are being observed. It is basically used to observe children, elderly, and animals. Ethical issues may arise because observation is done without participants' consent. Observation is also based on the mode of observation: direct observation and indirect observation by mechanical devices. So this was non-participants non-participant observation, where subjects are not aware that they are being observed. Structured observation. So structure, the name itself, it is a formal and organized technique which saves a lot of time, is used in controlled situations. It has well-defined guidelines. It is pre-planned. Tools are defined, like checklists, rating scale, category systems are defined. This indicates the presence or absence of pre-specified behavior or an attribute. So you will be placing a tick mark on the checklist, whether it is present or absent, performed or not performed. It makes the analysis easy. Standard operating guidelines are used in a specific time period. Checklists are very simple and easy to use. Descriptive and numeric rating scales are used to measure the intensity of pain. So this was about structured observation. Unstructured. Unstructured, it is an informal technique which is done without any planning, without pre-planning. It is used in qualitative studies. It is a spontaneous observation and recording, both. It is minimally structured and unstructured tools are used. It gives a rich and deep understanding of human behavior, requires high degree of concentration and attention, and it is associated with participant observation. And it is carried out by using logs, field notes, anecdotal records, recording an incident, field diary, and also video recording. So this was an unstructured observation, which is a very formal and which is an informal technique. There is no planning. Types. Now, what are the types of qualitative research designs? Phenomenological research, ethnographic research, grounded theory, historical research, case study, and action research. Now let's see one by one. Number one, phenomenology research or phenomenological research. Edmund Husserl is the father of phenomenology. Phenomenology is a rigorous, systematic study of phenomena or, or lived experiences or reactions or perceptions and feelings. So it is an in-depth analysis of a retrospective approach. It is an approach to philosophy which aims to describe the essence of lived experiences, those people who have lived in that experience as perceived by the researcher. It has four aspects of lived experiences. One, lived space. It is related to area or location and known as spatiality. Lived body, corporeality. Lived human relation, that means between the individuals. Lived time in a particular specific time or a period and known as temporality. This was phenomenological research. Research problem and sample. The research problem or the question, it focuses on the meaning given by the participants, on the meaning of the lived experiences of the participants. And the main goal is to develop rich, complete, and insightful description of the lived experiences, qualitative analysis of the narrative data from significant statements, which is in the form of words. And the sampling is purposive sampling, which is selected from the persons who have actually lived that experience, and they are able to participate in the study, and they are willing to describe, either discuss or verbally, or they are willing to write the experience. So purposive sampling is done. So phenomenology accepts those circumstances which are unobservable. People who have recently had experience are selected as participants. So written description by the participants about their experiences of that phenomena. It could be a disaster, some train tragedy or any other accident. Semi-structured in-depth interviews, audio taped interviews, and there can be written descriptions. So these are the four methods. Researcher has to be very empathetic and a skilled listener. Researcher to put on hold his views, feeling. We all have our own feelings, beliefs, attitudes. So we need to keep those on aside. Put on hold views, feelings, beliefs, opinions, and assumptions about that phenomena, as that may distort the study results. And this is known as bracketing. Contrast and compare. So for do the analysis, it is contrast and comparison between the themes, patterns, and the threads. So this should be, the analysis should be very clear and understandable. Consistent description of the essence to be given, and all the categories of themes need to be meaningful. Types of phenomenological study. For example, number one, realistic phenomenological research that takes care of human actions, human motives, and results. Number two, constitutive phenomenological research, which talks about social beliefs, positions, and practices. Number three, existential phenomenological research, actions, conflicts, and desires of human beings. Number four, hermeneutical phenomenological research, which takes care of social issues, cultural issues, political issues, and historical issues. These are the four types of phenomenological research. Ethnography. There are three main stages: activities in the pre-field work, activities in the field work, activities of post-field work. Activities in the pre-field work. So an ethnography has its roots in anthropology. It studies the naturally occurring behavior of a group. There are three major aspects. It studies about cultural behavior, cultural artifacts, and cultural speech. And it focuses on culture and social behavior. It describes beliefs, values, attitudes, cultures, rituals, practices, and customs of a particular group. And it has three main stages. Ethnography has three main stages. One, pre-field work. Research problem is selected about describing a specific culture, that is before starting going to the field. Information is collected on that problem and from the people, from the literature. So this is number one, pre-field work. Number two, activities in the field work. So ethnography is a labor-intensive and time-consuming process. So researchers need to act as instruments. They enter into everyday life and activities of the people. They focus on making contacts and they establish good relationships. They immerse with the culture. Also, they live with the people and they study socio-cultural practices. What are their traditions and how do they interact? Researchers spends almost a year to know about both the perspectives, emic culture and etic culture. Emic means insiders view of the culture, etic means outside view of the culture. So there's better understanding of the values, behavior, language, and then one needs to have a prolonged engagement around a year. Data collection. So that is how the data is collected through census, mapping out, document analysis, taking life history or the stories, event analysis. Also, for example, photographs of the weddings and also from the festivals, celebrations. Activities in the field work. Activities of post field work. Ethnographics research report includes a rich and holistic description of the culture under study. It provides access to health beliefs and what are their health beliefs, what is their attitude towards health, attitudes towards taking treatment, health practices, cultural problems, and the researcher needs to develop a level of intimacy with the participants. And it begins with a brief overview of the setting. The report begins with a brief overview of the setting and about the people, and then it is followed by a specific problem and then discussion on the field work. Ethnographic study on cultural beliefs, attitude on organ donation. So what are their beliefs and what is their attitude on organ donation among adults in the rural areas. Types of ethnographic studies. Autoethnography. Auto means self. So a self-examination within a cultural context. Ethnographic case studies, a case study with a cultural perspective. Critical, a study of marginalized group. Feminist, study of women and cultural practice. Postmodern ethnography, problems of society. Visual ethnography, online ethnography. Grounded theory approach. So grounded theory, it is an inductive technique which is developed by Glaser and Strauss for health related topics. The theory developed from the research is grounded and it has roots in the data, a form of an approach to study social process and social structures, and it moves from specific to the general. So grounded theory approach has three main sources of data generation. It is participant observation, formal and informal interviewing, and then field notes. And audio tape records are used to capture the words. Overview and phases of grounded theory. Data collection, then notes taking, coding, giving them codes, memoing, sorting out, and then finally writing down. So after each hour of data collection, the key issues are noted down, and this is notes taking. Constant comparison is being done from one interview to another. Comparison is written at the margin, on the margin sides as codes, and categories are identified, they are linked together, and then they are compared to a theory. So further notes about theory is known as memoing. So memos are sorted and grouped together and then they are sequenced. Methodology of grounded theory. Constant comparison is an important technique in grounded theory. It is dynamic in nature. It is carried out in this society. Data collection and analysis occurs immediately, also simultaneously. And grounded theory means it is grounded in the real world. After identifying the concepts, the relationships are specified. They are assigned codes and categories. Codes are constantly being reviewed as new interpretations emerge out of the data. The researcher needs to maintain an open mind and he needs to write analytical memos. Broad themes have to be generated and then themes have to be linked, and that leads to a theory, development of a theory. Now, sources of data collection. So, what are the sources of data collection in a grounded theory? Formal and informal interviews, videotape recordings, participant observation, audio tape recordings, diaries, documents, artwork, and then case studies. So these are the sources of data collection in a grounded theory. So grounded theory studies have focused on victims of Alzheimer's disease and how families accommodate to different stages of the illness of Alzheimer's, drug addiction, chronic illness, etc. Now, a few words about coding. Coding, open coding, axial coding, and selective coding. Open coding, identifying, naming, categorizing the phenomena. Comparative method is used, and then data is broken down to what, where, when, and how, and same conceptual label is given to the similar issues. Axial codings, so categories and properties are related to each other. So main categories and subcategories are developed. Selective coding, choosing one category to be the core category and then relating all other categories to that to bring categories together into an overall theory. Now, for example, a study of postpartum depression, that means after delivery depression among primary, first time who become the mothers, antenatal women of rural area in Haryana. Historical. Historical research, as the name suggests, historical research is the systematic collection, critical evaluation, and interpretation of historical evidence. It is a careful study and analysis of the past data. So, historical research deals with the past data. There is no manipulation or there is no control of variables, and it answers questions relating to cause, effects, trends relating to the past events, which may throw light on the present behavior or practices. It gives a to gain a clear perspective of the past. It evaluates the accomplishments of individuals, agencies, or institutions. Characteristics of historical research. It gives a historical research gives a detailed analysis of what has been done or what has been written. It is a critical investigation of the past events, their development, how did they develop, what were the experiences, and whether they are valid and how to we interpret them. So this is written materials from the past are reviewed. Narrative records like diaries, letters, newspapers, reports, and minutes of the meetings are taken. Historical method of research covers historical, legal, documentary, social, biographical, bibliographical, institutional, and organizational issues. So records, they are an economical, convenient source of information. Steps. Now coming to these steps, how should the historical research be carried out? There are three main steps. It is a comprehensive gathering of the data from two main categories. The two main categories are data collection, primary sources, and secondary sources. So the first step is data collection. Primary sources, it is first-hand information to be collected from associated persons, groups, periods, or events related to that event, to that topic. It could be fossils, skeletons, weapons, tools, utensils, clothing, buildings, furniture, pictures, paintings, coins, art objects, etc. There can be oral or verbal records, written records by actual participants from the event as witness. There could be documents like laws, court rulings, diaries, bills, receipts, films, recordings, books, magazines, etc. These were the primary sources of data collection in historical research. The secondary sources could be history books and encyclopedia, etc. Second step. Second step is criticism of the data collected in first step. It is a comprehensive review of collected materials. Accuracy of documents have to be ensured. Signatures and dates on materials to be seen. Criticism is of two types, external criticism and internal criticism. External means establishing validity by determining authenticity of the source, genuineness of the data collected. It deals with the form and appearance, the outward appearance, external criticism. Original, first-hand oral and written documents. So this was external criticism. Internal criticism, interpreting the contents, whether it is original and taken from an authentic source. Meaning of the facts and statement has to be is understood. Seeking collaboration with the participants and determining accuracy, validity of the data. Knowledge of the biases of documents, how whether they are biased documents and how competent they are, the degree of competence. Third step. So third step is presentation of the facts. So first was data collection. Second, criticism of the data collected, external and internal. Third step, presentation of the facts. One has to be very careful while presenting the facts as logical processes are involved. So documentation, arrangement of the topics, subtopics, and then interpreting them and determining interrelationship among the facts. Either they are arranged in the calendar form, date wise, event wise, name wise, topical, topic wise, thematic, theme wise, or according to the function. So they are arranged. One needs to avoid over generalizations, over signifying, secondary data to be avoided, personal biases to be avoided, and dull style of writing to be avoided. All the three steps of historical research, they are central to discovering the truth about the past, and then that can be related to the present. Areas. So what could be the areas of historical study or the topics? Could be divided into three periods. One, two, geographical locations. Three, military history. Periods. So studying in the particular periods, events and developments during particular blocks of time in the past, and there are names given to these periods of time. Could be centuries and decades are the commonly used periods. Periods are constructed retrospectively. Geographical locations, for example, continents, countries, cities, states, and districts. Military history, it is a study of conflicts in the human society in the past. It is a critical evaluation of the wars, battles, military strategies, weaponry, etc. And what were the effects of these events on the society and also on the health. So it could be examined. So these were the areas of historical study: periods, geographical locations, and military history. Now some examples from the historical study: a historical research on the development of nursing in India, a historical research on the development of nursing education in India, a historical study on the medical records of patients who experienced cardiopulmonary arrest in a selected hospital. So these could be the examples of a historical study. Case study. Case studies are very common form of research. They are an in-depth examination either of a person or an event or an institution or an organization. It is development of detailed, intensive knowledge about a single case or a small number of related cases or patients, disease wise, could be a family, a group wise, or a community wise. Case studies are qualitative research studies, but they can be quantitative study also, depending on the purpose of the study and also the phenomena under study. And it is a qualitative analysis of the collected data. Types of case studies. There are 5 types of case studies: intrinsic case study, instrumental case study, which is further got subcategories: historical case study, observational case study, and clinical case study; descriptive case study, explorative case study, and explanatory case study. Now, intrinsic case study. Intrinsic case study, a case is given. It is a process of evaluation just to understand a particular case that may be unique or different. Intrinsic. Instrumental. So instrumental, various variables are explained. The cases are selected as it represents some other issue which can help in understanding that particular issue. And it is of 3 types. Historical, where you study specific event, historical case study over a specific period of time. Observational case study, where it is study of specific individual over a specific period of time. Clinical case studies, study of a specific disease over a specific period of time. So this was instrumental case study, three types. Descriptive case study, so they describe the salient features and the qualities and the characteristics of the people. Explorative, explorative, either it explores and understands variables holistically on a group of individuals or specific cases. So key concepts are explored and also the associated factors in explorative case study. Last, explanatory case study, and it involves qualitative and quantitative aspects. Data is organized and analyzed to formulate theories. So these were the types of case studies: intrinsic, instrumental, descriptive, explorative, and explanatory. Data collection and analysis. Multiple methods are used to collect the data: interviewing, observation, testing, audio recording, video recordings, review of the documents and artifacts. History and behavioral pattern is explored, quantitative and qualitative, both the information is used, and then content is analyzed. It is content analysis is used to analyze the case study data. Both written and the visual materials are used. For example, it is widely used in the education sector. All the variables are examined. For example, textbooks, newspapers, web pages, social network sites, blogs, speeches, TV programs, and advertisements. So this was about data collection and data analysis in historical research. Examples: case study research. Case study to determine the responses of diabetic patients in the use of insulin pump. So either one diabetic patient is selected, or a few patients are selected to study, to understand their experiences, that how are they using the insulin pump. Case study to assess the utilization of welfare schemes for elderly population, whether they are utilizing the elderly schemes for the population among elderly people residing in rural areas of Rajasthan. Are they able to utilize? So case study on utilization of welfare schemes. Case study on the organization and functioning of the civil hospital Jalandhar, Punjab. So for example, how is the hospital organized? What are the functioning? What are the facilities available? What is the indoor? How much is the OPD? All those things. So a detailed case study on this issue. Action research. The last topic is action research. It is a kind of applied research which empowers people with knowledge, and it finds practical solutions to problems by taking actions. Changes in one's actions or practices can benefit the whole organization. Changes are always planned, and taking action through planning and also fact finding. It is a branch of action research, participatory action research. A social psychologist by Kurt Lewin. Problem is researched, and then it is changed, and then it is re-researched, and then it is co-researched by other people. Data is collected by interview. Many methods are used: interview, observation, storytelling, sociodrama, plays, skits, drawing and painting competitions are held. So these are the various methods of data collection in action research. So what is the importance of action research? Because it solves day-to-day problems. It solves problems by collaborating with other people with several disciplines for solving issues or problems. It studies individual cases to improve the practices. Action research recognizes that other variables are constantly changing. So working harmoniously with other people can change things. So for example, it is very important in health research, action research, and action research on the use of support programs to solve somatic morbidity, that means bodily issues, disease, illness among mentally ill patients in a selected mental hospital in North India. So action research, example of action research. Now presenting results of qualitative research. It has to be a description because there are only words, analysis, and interpretation. So main three stages: description, analysis, and interpretation. A range of quotations can be selected out of the whole volume of data. Strength of opinions or beliefs, similarities between the respondents, differences between the respondents in findings, link, what are the link between different categories, and then themes can be made, major categories and minor categories. To strengthen the analysis, quantitative techniques can also be used. So these are presenting results of the qualitative research. So themes, major categories and minor categories are framed. So themes, major categories, minor categories. So for example, theme number 1, health issues for young people. Under this, number 1, sexual health, and this is the major category. And the minor category could be under sexual health, safe sex, pregnancy, and sexual behavior. Major category number 2, under health issues for young people, drugs. Under drugs, the minor categories could be illicit drugs, smoking, and alcohol. So these are the 3 minor categories of drugs, which is a major category. Now, theme number 2, barriers. So what are the barriers to accessing health services? There are 2 major categories under this: lack of knowledge and attitudes. So lack of knowledge is a major category. Under this, there are 3 minor categories: services available, if they are available or not; understanding, do they understand, will they be, how to use the services, and what is their perception, what is their attitude towards accessing of health services. So this was under lack of knowledge. Services available, understanding, perceptions. Number 2 major categories, attitude. So under attitude, it has 3 minor categories: own beliefs, peer pressure, peer group, and expectation of the staff. So this is how themes, major categories, and minor categories are used. Critique. So how do you critique a qualitative research design? To assess the quality of the qualitative research, there are some questions which can be asked. Is there a clear statement of aims? Is the qualitative methodology or qualitative design appropriate for the problem? Was the recruitment strategy appropriate to the aim of the study? Have ethical issues been taken care of related to the problem? Research. Was data collection and data analysis sufficiently vigorous? Was there a clear statement of findings? Does the study focus on the subjective nature of the human experience? So that is how you can critique or evaluate a qualitative research design. Conclusion. Qualitative research design is used extensively by scientists, researchers to study the human behavior, which is so very complex, opinions, and their motivations. These are the oldest of all scientific techniques, as ancient Greek philosophers, they had observed the world through their eyes. The unique attributes of the qualitative research are flexibility of design. Researcher acts as an instrument, types of issues and questions, importance of the meaning of the lived experiences, participant-researcher relationship, and researchers' unique skill sets. So this was all about qualitative research designs. Thank you, students.